Afternoon, everyone, and thank you all so much for being here today. We may give the rest of our participants maybe about 45 more seconds before we begin, just so everyone can come in as they can. Thank you all for being here today. All right, so as a couple more people are coming into our Toolbox Tuesday for today, I want to thank you all for joining us. My name is Olivia Meisenbach, and I am a technical writer for Illinois Works. And on our call today, we have our grant manager, one of our grant managers, Miss Monica Pruitt, as well as on our team, we have Dr. Carlita Austin, who will be assisting in our virtual production for today.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for
Thank you. All right, and so moving forward, we will welcome for our Toolbox Tuesday, How to Ace Compliance. And so our target audience for this is all of our grantee administrators and our coordinators for today. So we hope you all are ready for a great meeting today. And going into our course overview, during this course, you will be provided with knowledge to effectively interpret the monthly compliance report and help with verification. You will also be able to mark your calendar regarding important upcoming dates.
And Olivia, before we move on, can we ask our audience to mute their lines so that we have less disruptions during the meeting?
Thank you. Thank you, Carlita, for that point. Yes, we will have time for certain question and answer areas for us to go off of mute if there are any, but for the purposes of our webinar at the moment, we would appreciate everyone to be muted as of now. Thank you, Carlita. I appreciate that.
Okay, great.
So moving forward, this section will be recorded and made available to review on our Illinois Works Partner Guide. A link to our Illinois Works Partner Guide is now being provided for you in the chat below. Before we proceed, are there any questions before we move on to the next section? And if there are any, please feel free to unmute yourself or post the questions in the chat.
Olivia, there are no questions in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much. So moving forward, for this next part is to, by the end of this section, you all will be able to use the WebEx features and functions to fully participate in the training, identify what you hope to learn from this training, and identify learners as well. So, therefore, in order for you to be fully engaged, let us review some basic WebEx system functions, such as the mute and unmute button on the bottom of your screen, as well as the stop and start video, the raise hand feature. We also have emojis that you may want to use, or the chat as well, which will also be ready available for you all. To help facilitate the best experience, please keep your line muted to help manage potential interruptions during the training. And then the lines can be unmuted during the question and answer sessions or our group discussions. If you have a comment or question, please share it in the chat or unmute yourself. So, as we are moving forward, we will be using our Mentimeter. And so you will see on the right side of your screen a multimedia viewer alert. Click the blue continue button. Once you press continue, the Mentimeter app will show in the multimedia viewer panel. And the information for this will also be in the chat. And so our question is your name, your organization/agency, your role, and your geographic location. And so I can see that some of us have already put in this information. So I see Robert from Bethel Family Resource Center. I see Good afternoon. I see Daniel or Mr. G from Lumity. I see St. Augustine College. I also see William from Richland Community College. I also see Daisy from Hispanic American Construction Industry Association. Joe from Lewis University. I appreciate you all for joining today and adding your information on here. And if anyone else would like to put in their information as well, that would be great just to kind of see who we're all speaking with today. Oh, and I see there's some people also posting in the chat. I see Anna from Rincon, Denise from Girls Light Our Way, and I see, excuse me, Shobra from QCUL in Aurora. All right, and I see, yep, a couple more from Rincon. This is great. Thank you, everyone. So moving forward, we will be asking the question of what do you hope to learn? So this question is important because we want to see if we are reaching the goals and the objectives that you all have in joining our session for today. So what do you hope to learn from today? And as we're waiting for those to come in, if you're also just here to learn and see what we have available, you can also just put that in the Mentimeter answer as well. Give you all a couple minutes or so.
Yes.
Compliance. Okay. Any tips and tricks to ACE compliance, of course. That's what we're here for today. Great. Tips on having a good compliance report. Thank you all for your answers. All right. So we seem to all be on the same page for today. That's great. And so I guess moving forward, I will actually be passing over the webinar to our compliance section. If there are any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself. But otherwise, are there any questions you may see, Carlita?
I do see someone says they want to know how to use Mentimeter. My question to you, are you able to use the scanner code or are you able to use the web link that was provided in the chat? And you can come off mute, Oliveras. We want to make sure you're able to use Mentimeter today because we do have an evaluation at the end. Note to both, I'll use the code on the screen. Are you able to get in now? Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing that. Back to you, Olivia.
Thank you so much. And thank you for spotting that question as well. So again, if there are any other questions, there don't seem to be in the chat. So moving forward with the rest of our webinar today for Toolbox Tuesday, I will be passing over the information to Miss Monica Pruitt. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Olivia, and thank you, Carlita. Also, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. If I have not had the pleasure of meeting you, my name is Monica Pruitt, and I'm one of the programmatic grant managers here for the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. So today, our objectives are, or at the end of this section, you as our learners will be able to explain the monthly compliance report process, to utilize tools to help with verification, to leverage compliance tips, to explain the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grant renewal process, and finally, you'll be able to mark your calendars with some upcoming compliance data pool dates. Okay, so we discussed monthly compliance here as the 5 stages of monthly compliance. Monthly compliance has a clear process comprised of 5 steps. First, compliance data is pulled using an export report in IWRS, or the Illinois Works Reporting System. Next, grant managers verify outcome metrics based on data entered and or uploaded into IWRS. Grant managers then update verified outcome metrics in IWRS. Those verified outcome metrics are then used to determine the compliance rating for each individual grantee. And last, grant managers create and send monthly compliance reports to each of our grantees. And those monthly compliance reports consist of a progress report, a payment worksheet, and also a verification spreadsheet. So let's discuss the compliance data pool using the export report in IWRS. On the menu bar, select the export tab to show the drop-down menu of fields. The export report in IWRS enables users, same as with us grant managers, to select the fields that will be used in the report. Grant managers use the export report to identify participants in enrollment and completion statuses each month. The second stage is for grant managers to verify outcome metrics based on the data entered or uploaded into IWRS. The enrollment verification process includes confirmation of the following, and you can see several things. Wait a minute, I think do we have the right slide there? We do have the right slide. Okay. The enrollment verification process includes the confirmation of the following. Has a pre-screen assessment been completed? For the application, is that person 18 years of age or older? Are they an Illinois resident? Has the education section of the application been completed? And also in the employment section, has it been completed, including current or most recent work experience for each individual participant? Next, the enrollment verification process looks at eligibility. In confirming eligibility, we are looking to confirm a participant's legal name, their age, and also that they are a resident of the state of Illinois. A driver's license or a state ID is the preferred method as it covers all three. We can get the name, the age, and Illinois residency all in the same place. However, additional documents may be considered. For instance, a birth certificate may be used to provide us with the person's legal name and their age in the event that they happen not to have a driver's license. So some alternative documents may be accepted. We look for a high school diploma, a transcript, or a GED. The important thing to remember with transcripts is that it should include a date of graduation. We look for interviewer names and an average score of both interview sheets. There should be 2 interview sheets, but they should be completed individually by the interviewers. Both interviewers should meet with that person at the exact same time, but their responses to those persons or the answers to the responses gathered from those participants should be recorded individually. We look for a commitment agreement signed by a staff member and the participant. On the commitment agreement, we are looking for original signature, so please don't just type in your name. Has that person been properly enrolled in the right cohort? We look at the wraparound service assessment. Has it been entered and are services populated into the wraparound services goal? Couple of more. We look to make sure that an orientation career assessment has been completed and that the overall status of that participant in IWRS is enrolled. Okay, next we are looking at completion verification. The completion verification process ensures that the training modulars included in IWRS match those training modulars that were approved via your final curriculum form. Each training service for each individual participant should have an 80% attendance or above rating and a 70% or higher post-assessment score. All training services must be in a successful completion status. The exception is sometimes evaluated, not required, for instance, a first aid CPR course or perhaps even OSHA 10. That meaning that the participant actually already had those credentials when they entered the program and they are still good for at least 1 year from the end of that cohort. So in those particular instances, training service could possibly be evaluated and not required. An earned credential entry is made in IWRS for each credential successfully completed. This is done manually in the Earned Credentials tab under Training Services. All services under each goal must be in an appropriate final status. And that typically means complete for most services if that is a successful completion. At least one transition service is required for all participants. Wraparound services that were requested must have been entered into IWRS, and other services should have a case note, or more accurately, they should be entered into IWRS as a service, and also if there was a cost associated with the other or alternative service, the dollar value of that service should be added as well. And finally, if a wraparound service was found to be evaluated or not required, a valid case note should be provided. And an example of that is that a participant may have come in and requested help with paying their driver's license fees. And then they ultimately got money for their birthday, so they didn't need the grantee to help them with that anymore. As opposed to just saying service not needed, the case note would indicate that that person was able to secure funding in a different way, or maybe even they got birthday money and they're going to pay the fees with the birthday money. But the explanation needs to be something outside of the fact of not needed. And then finally, all goals must be in final status. And like I said before, that typically means complete status. Okay. So a few other things that the completion verification process includes are the student satisfaction survey must be completed by at least 75% of your graduates. Attendance rosters must be properly uploaded to cohort details in IWRS. Stipend payments must be entered for all participants. And finally, there has to be an alignment between attendance entered into IWRS, attendance recorded on your physical attendance rosters, stipend payments made based on instruction hours, and finally, for your PFR or your performance fiscal, can't come up with PFR stands for at this moment. Your reimbursement request must equal in IWRS what your stipend entries are. So all four of those must align. And last, the last list of things that we look at for your completion verification. Has a pre-transition career assessment been completed? And you can find that on the intake tab in IWRS. Has completion documentation been uploaded for each required certification? That means we need to see a valid first aid CPR card, a valid OSHA 10 card, and also the certification that would have been received for the construction training, whether it be NCCER Core, Trades Future MC3, or the ICCB certification that was issued from your organization. Please remember that each document must be issued in the participant's legal name. While I go by the name Monica, my legal name is La Monica. So all of my certifications would use my legal name of La Monica. We look to make sure that there's a proper resume uploaded to IWRS. Some of the things that we look for are an Illinois Works ID number. And basically that is the workNet ID number that is used in IWRS. We look for confirmation that the individual is a graduate of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Also, resumes should include that once a person becomes a USDOL registered apprenticeship, they also become Illinois Works Apprenticeship Initiative compliant and Illinois Works bid credit eligible. So we do look for those three dot points in the resumes. Also, confirmation that the individual obtained the first aid CPR certification, the OSHA 10 certification, and again, whichever of the three construction certifications that was used for that program. And I will mention that in our grantee manual, the template or the sample that we use, it says NCCR Core, Trades Future MC3, or ICCB certification. No grantee is using all three. Please have your graduates select the one that they are using and then delete the other two in the event that you are using the template from our grantee manual. And then the overall status must be complete or completed in transition. And the difference in those two is that complete and in transition means that at least one transition service has been received by that participant. And obviously that is our goal. So once training has been completed in transition is the goal that we're looking for all of our participants. Okay. So once you've enrolled them and completed them, then we begin to look at transition verification. The transition verification process is how it's documented that a person has moved on to employment or enrollment into a DOL registered apprenticeship program. So for preliminary primary transition credit, what we're looking for is that a participant successfully applied to a DOL registered apprenticeship program. And the documentation that we accept in order to support that is a third party document that states that the person has successfully submitted an application. They are now on a wait list for that registered apprenticeship program, receipt of the application, some form of third party confirmation that not only was an application completed, but also more specifically that the application was submitted. Obviously goes without saying that the documentation that is received must contain the participant's name and the name of the registered apprenticeship program for which they applied. The tail end of that is final primary transition. And that basically means that the person was hired on or accepted into a registered apprenticeship program, or that they have a sponsorship letter for a registered apprenticeship program. So at that point in time, the primary transition stage is twofold. We have preliminary, which basically means you successfully applied to a DOL registered apprenticeship program, and then final verification basically says that you were hired on. If a primary transition document is uploaded, the assistance with completing an apprenticeship program application transition service must be added under the transition service goal and marked as successful completion. And then, of course, we have a disclaimer that even though these are examples, they are not an exhaustive list of all items that will be accepted. They are only those that are most submitted. So if there is a question about whether or not a document is valid, please contact your individual grant manager, and we should be able to help you with that. Okay, so along with primary transitions, there are a couple of other things. The transition verification process also ensures that secondary and alternative construction transitions have taken place. And alternative construction is generally work in the construction field that is outside of a DOL registered apprenticeship program. And secondary transition could mean acceptance into an advanced training program, or maybe going on to college or another program in higher education. So the documents we would look for in those particular instances are pay stubs or offer letters for employment. In addition to a pay stub, we generally ask that Exhibit 18, an employment verification form, is used. And the reason for that is often pay stubs don't provide enough information for us to properly determine if it should be a secondary transition or an alternative construction transition. But if Exhibit 18 is used, it provides all the details of the job so that we can properly determine which credit the grantee should receive. And again, this list is not exhaustive. So if there's something you have a question about, please reach out to your grant manager for assistance.
Monica, we have a
Yes.
question in the chat,
Okay.
and the question is an email, this is from Robert, is an email acceptable as third-party verification for participant application?
Hi, Robert. Yes, an email is acceptable, but there are a few caveats. And that being, the email should come from, and I'm going to use the IBEW, the electrical workers. That person should not send an email from their personal email account. We should be able to see Dear participant name, we should be able to tell from a professional email address that it came from the IBEW. The person who signs off on the email, should have a proper name and, what is their title, or, are you the training coordinator, or are you the janitor? So yes, an email is acceptable, but it still needs to cover those bases of having the valid information that we need.
Thank you, Monica.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the role of the grant managers. Grant managers are accountable for verifying outcome metrics in IWRS. Transition documents are only reviewed at the time of completion verification. So once completion has been verified, grantees must notify their grant manager of transition document uploads. And so just to talk about that just a tiny bit more, oftentimes a person may complete the training, but at that time they may not choose to apply for a DOL registered apprenticeship program, or they may apply and we may give them preliminary credit for having applied to a DOL registered apprenticeship program, but then 6 months may pass before they actually call them for testing or something along those lines. As the grantee, once that person is hired on to a DOL registered apprenticeship program, the grantee would need to notify the grant manager and say, hey, I have this participant from the first cohort this year, or the last cohort last year, who has transitioned. I'm going to upload a document that you need to look at this month. And each of us as grant managers review approximately 500 profiles each month. So we certainly don't have the capacity to say, I wonder whatever happened with so-and-so. So it's up to the grantee to notify us that there are new transition documents that we need to take a look at after the completion verification process has taken place. So I hope that was helpful to somebody. Okay. How do we determine compliance rating? It is important to understand how to determine a compliance rating based on verified outcome metrics. To determine which outcome metrics need to be factored into the compliance score, Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grant managers look at the grantee's work plan instruction dates. Enrollment will be added as an outcome metric if the compliance date is after the program start date. For completion, we only add completion as an outcome metric if the compliance date is after a cohort's instruction end date. And then for transitions, we look at transitions as an outcome metric if the compliance date is 2 weeks after the cohort's instruction end date. In stage 4, we look at compliance metrics where we determine your compliance rating based on verified outcome metrics. In the example on the screen, 3 metrics are taken into consideration. So you can see here we have 2 cohorts. We have their the goal enrollment, the actual enrollment, and then the percentage that was earned based on those numbers. So in cohort 1, the goal was 20 enrollments. That particular grantee got 18 enrollments. So, I'm sorry, is there a question? Okay. So the compliance score would be 90% for cohort 1 for enrollments. Looking at completion, the goal was 17 completers, but actually there were only 12 completers for cohort 1. So that compliance rating would be 71%. For cohort 2, the goal was 20 enrollments. The actual enrollment was 20, so that grantee would have received 100%, but there were no completions for cohort 2. In total, the percentage for cohorts 1 and 2 is 261%. If you divide that by 3 metrics, and those 3 metrics would be enrollment and completion for cohort 1 and enrollment for cohort 2, the overall compliance rating would be 87%, which is good progress. Okay, so we are going to do a quick little exercise. So let's look at this example. In this example, compliance will be pulled on 7/7/2024. So we're a little late. Okay, so based on the program dates below, which metrics will be taken into consideration during this compliance review? And you see you have your two cohorts. Your program start date is March 15, 2024. The program end date is May 15, 2024. For cohort 2, your program start date is 7/8/2024, and the program end date is 9/15/2024. So using the compliance pool date of 7/7/24, how many metrics or which metrics will be taken into consideration during that compliance pool? How about, we had anybody add it to the chat, or if anybody wants to unmute? Let's see if just a couple of people can determine which metrics will be reviewed.
So there is a relevant question in the chat that may help with this exercise.
Okay.
Daisy Alvarado is asking, why is it divided by 3?
Are we back to the last, are we talking about the last slide as far as the compliance score is concerned?
Correct.
Okay, because there would have been 3 metrics that we looked at. So we looked at enrollment for the first cohort, we looked at completion for the first cohort, and then we also looked at enrollment for the second cohort. So together that's 3. It was divided by these 3 different metrics.
Okay, thank you. And then also Robert asked, can the metrics be weighted based upon the payment?
Can the metrics be weighted based on the payment?
If may I explain?
Sure.
So basically, there's X amount of, let's just take $100. So
Mhm.
both of those, a portion of those dollars go toward enrollment. A portion of those dollars go toward primary or completion. A portion of those dollars go towards primary transition and secondary transition.
Mhm.
And the metrics be weighted based upon whether it is where we are in terms of the stage. If it's so if it's $100, basically taking the percentage of dollars that you potentially can get for a given candidate, weigh the metrics based upon enrollment versus completion versus primary verification.
No, I see exactly what you're saying. And actually, if you were to take a look at your payment worksheet, which I know we do have a slide of it later on, but if you look at your payment worksheet, Robert, you will see that, enrollments are worth 25% of your total grant award, and completions are worth 30% of your total grant award, and transitions are worth 35% of your total grant award. So that's the reason why for an enrollment, you may receive $2,500 per participant, but for completion, you may receive $3,500 per participant. So it is actually weighted by each metric.
So that's the payment. I'm talking about the actual verification. Can it be weighted by those same factors?
I think that's to come. Currently, that is not the case, but I do believe that that is something that is on the table for 2026. So stay tuned.
Okay. Yeah, because clearly, based on the dollars, one is more important than the other.
Absolutely. So that
And so,
conversation has started. So I think you're slightly ahead of us, but I am almost positive that stay tuned that is to come. Okay. All right. Oh,
Monica, there are a few more questions in here if you would have time, if that's all right.
okay.
Okay. So moving forward after Robert's question, excuse me. Daniel had the question, is part-time work acceptable for secondary or alternative transitions?
No, part-time, it would have to be full-time employment.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then one more question is, are primary transitions part of the compliance score?
They are. The only transition that does not count towards your compliance score is secondary.
Okay.
So primary and also alternative construction do count.
All right, I believe those are all of the questions that we have as of right now.
Okay, fantastic. And I lost my slide. So, okay. So let's go back. Let's go back to that exercise and let's look here again. So to just talk about the details very quickly, again, the compliance pool date would be on July the 7th. So based on the information you have provided here, who can maybe somebody put in the chat which metrics would be taken into consideration during this compliance report pool?
This is William. Would it be enrollment and completion only of cohort 1?
Close. Give it one more try.
Oh, 7-7. Completion, enrollment completion of cohort 1 and enrollment of cohort 2. No?
So, okay, somebody said enrollment, completion, and primary transition. So transition is the answer. And William, well, first of all, I'm gonna say, okay, our slide could be better. So we said previously that if it's at least 2 weeks after the end date for your instruction, that's when we start to look at transition. So there's like one little nugget that's not included there on our slide. So in this particular instance, yes, we will look at enrollments, completions, but we would also look at transitions that have occurred between 5/15 and 7/7. So those are the 3 metrics that we would be looking at. All right. Yep, enrollment, completion, and transition. Okay, so everybody gets one more chance. We got one more exercise. So let's see about this one. So again, our compliance pool date is going to be on 7/7/24. Based on the program dates below, which metrics will be taken into consideration during this compliance pool? So we have a start date in February. We have an end date in May. Cohort 2, we have a start date in June and a completion date in September. So somebody says that we will be looking at 4 metrics. Okay. Same as before, plus cohort 2 enrollment, okay? So the 3 we originally had, and then one more. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. All right. Everybody's correct. That is the answer. So for cohort 1, we would look at enrollments, completions, and transitions. And then for cohort 2, we would look at enrollment. So your total percentage would be divided by 4 in that instance to come up with your compliance score. All right. So the last stage in the process is creating monthly compliance reports. So the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grant managers create and send monthly compliance reports to grantees. The monthly compliance progress report is documentation of a grantee's progress towards enrollment, completion, and transition goals as entered in IWRS over the course of the preceding month. It provides per cohort metrics and reimbursement levels in addition to IWRS data trends. In essence, this is new information since the last compliance verification. So this is anything new since last time. Next, grantees receive a payment worksheet. Here's a sample of a payment worksheet here on the screen. The monthly compliance payment worksheet is documentation of a grantee's progress towards unlocking the full financial amount of the grant award based on their performance. It provides aggregate metrics and reimbursement per metric, as well as the year-to-date total approved reimbursement level. This aggregate worksheet outlines the total number of enrollments, completions, primary transitions, alternative transitions, and secondary transitions. This report also provides grantees with a detailed outline of their custom performance-based payment funding formula and reimbursement max and grant award information. And that's kind of what I was talking about before. If you take a look there at the top left-hand side, you can actually see a breakdown of your per participant allotment. Right, thank you so much. Right there. So you can see what you earn with each verification based on enrollment, completion, or transition. All right, and then last but not least is the verification spreadsheet, which there is a sample there on the screen. The verification workshop sheet is documentation of a grantee's progress towards enrollment, completion, and transitions on a per participant basis. The spreadsheet identifies flags where data could not be verified. If participant data is verified, then the month and the year of the verification is noted within the appropriate metric, which all of you are familiar with, the green highlighted cells that are typically found on your verification worksheet if the participant has been verified. Okay, so there are some tools that you can access yourself to help with verification. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the export report. The export report is located in the Illinois Works reporting system under the Participant Recruitment and Enrollment tab. Select the blue Export tab to open the export menu. Select which fields you would like to export. The fields that are pre-selected are added to every report. So you're always going to get probably first name, last name, the grantee that that participant is associated with. But if we go on to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about some additional things that you can find via the export report. You can always see the overall status of your grantees, but in addition, for enrollment, you can very easily see the highest level of education for everybody in your cohort. You can select interview scores and get a printout of the interview scores that were entered for each one of your participants. Same for wraparound services. The orientation career assessment, you can select assigned cohort and see everybody who has been properly enrolled into a particular cohort. Some of the same things you can find, or some additional things that you can find as far as completion. If you select OSHA 10, you can go in and see who in your cohort has earned their OSHA 10 certification. In the event that you know somebody earned their certification and it's not there in the export report, that probably means that your data entry coordinator may have missed that one. So you can see before we get around to doing monthly compliance, like, oh yeah, I need to go in and add the credential or upload the verification for participants' OSHA 10 card. And it's the same for attendance flags and the pre-transition career assessment. There are multiple things that you can go in and kind of check yourself to make sure those things have been done before monthly compliance takes place. Okay, on your monthly verification spreadsheet, as I mentioned earlier, the verification spreadsheet lists flags where verifications are needed. So in the example, a brief description of the missing information is provided for the grantee to rectify in their next data pool. And that is entirely too small for me to read, but ordinarily it would be a flag somewhere along the lines of a valid high school diploma or equivalent is missing, or please provide proof of Illinois residency for this participant. So there in your needed to verify column, you will find whatever is missing in order for us to be able to verify that person for you during monthly compliance. Okay, a few other resources. Do we have any questions before I go on? I'm sorry. No? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, there are some questions in the chat as of right now.
Okay, go ahead, Olivia.
So, thank you. So I do have one asking, will the slide deck be shared with the group? To answer that question, just really quickly, we are recording this session, Raphael, and so it will be put onto our Illinois Works Partner Guide website, if that answers your question as well. But the second question, great, is can you share the files selected by the grantee manager uses for each of the 3 areas of compliance verification?
Okay, read that one again slow. I'm sorry.
Yes. Can you share the files selected by the grantee manager for each of the 3 areas of compliance verification?
Okay, so whoever that is, you can feel free to come off of mute just to make sure I understand. So are you asking how we determine who is reviewed during compliance each month?
Not quite, LaMonica, thank you.
Okay.
What I was asking, and I can't type, y'all, and I can't type in chat, there's like a really small space, but anyway, it should be fields, not files. That's what I meant to type, so I apologize for that.
Okay, so tell me the question again, Robert.
So if I'm doing enrollment verification, what are
Mhm.
the fields that the grant manager is clicking to develop their report? Because I'd like to be able to pull those same fields as a minimum when I'm doing my check, my pre-check.
Oh, sure. Okay, so we're not going to go back a couple of slides, but when you see the recording, then we're going back to, and actually we'll talk about it in a second with these checklists. So, where we outline it, the pre-screen assessment, the application, high school diploma, um, ID or eligibility requirement, was there the orientation career assessment. So a few slides back, there was a list of the different things that we look at for enrollment verification. Those are the things. And actually, we're going to get a little bit more into the data verification checklist and the participant file checklist in a minute, and those will provide you with some additional information as well. Olivia, do we have any other questions before I go on?
No more questions in the chat as of now.
Okay, perfect. So this will be helpful. One of the things that is provided in the 2025 grantee manual is the data verification checklist, which assists grantees with ensuring they are systematically reviewing the data for verification. The checklist is located in the 2025 grantee manual under Exhibit 16, Verification Checklist. It's important to note that this checklist does not contain every item necessary for successful compliance. Grantees may need to enhance the checklist to ensure their specific needs are captured. And you're probably like, so why is everything not on this checklist? So what that means is, for example, a grantee may receive a flag indicating that their data entry has failed to capitalize the first letters of their participant's first and last name. They should add that to their checklist for systemic data review as a part of their data quality management. So again, this is something that you can actually, ordinarily with exhibits, we say you can't add to them, but these are for your use. So if you find that there's something that you all are not doing, or you got a flag for something that you need to make sure you double check in the future, feel free to use this checklist to add those things there. The second tool that is available to help with verification is the participant file checklist. The participant file checklist assists grantees with verification by giving you a place to record that required documents have been received for each stage of the verification process. For example, was proof of Illinois residency received for Monica Pruitt? Well, yes, it was. And on your checklist, you can check yes, it was received, but also you can record the date that it was received and by whom. So Robert may have been the person who received my Illinois residency. So that can be marked off on the participant file checklist. So once it's time for compliance, you know that all of the documents you needed have been received and have been uploaded into IWRS. And this checklist can be found in the 2025 Granting Manual under Exhibit 7, which is Participant File Checklist. Okay. So this is not nearly all of the tips that we probably should provide, but let us talk about just a couple of the compliance tips for meeting successful compliance requirements. First, please always make sure that your work plan dates are always up to date. As you saw in the exercises that we did earlier, which metrics we look at during monthly compliance are determined by what stage you're in instruction. Have you started instruction? Have you finished instruction? Has it been 2 weeks since the last day of instruction? So now I should start to look at your transitions. So you want to make sure that your work plan dates are always up to date, because those are the dates we use to determine the metrics that we will review. Prior to compliance pools, double check participant statuses. By that, if your cohort has ended, participants should no longer be in enrolled status. Instruction has ended. That person should either have, they should be completed, they should be an incomplete, or they may be, what is it, successful completion, unsuccessful completion. But regardless, that person should not still be in enrolled status. Also, once again, going back to those work plan dates, if instruction has ended, I'm going to look for completions. If that person is still in enrolled status, there's nothing for me to look for in completions. But in the meantime, you as the grantee are still held accountable for that metric, because those persons should not still be in enrolled status. They should at that point be in complete status. Okay. If time is of the essence, go person by person, not task by task. If you look at the items that are needed for enrollment verification, I believe there are 10 separate items. If you find yourself in a crunch, don't go in and do 2 of those 10 things for everybody. Do all 10 for one person, then go in and do all 10 for the second person, because at the end of the day, out of your 10 people, you may only get credit for 2, but at least you got credit for something. If out of the 10 items that needed to be uploaded for each person, you only uploaded 2 for each person, you don't get credit for anybody. So if you find that time is of the essence before the next data pool, go person by person, not task by task. Always develop and follow a data management plan. Who's entering your data? Who's double checking your data? Are you using those checklists that we just talked about, just to make sure that you have all of the documents that you need? So it's very, very important to follow a data management plan. There's one additional one that I added just because it's a really big one for me. Make sure that all of the documents uploaded to IWRS are legible. That means make sure that they aren't too dark to read. Make sure they're not too small to read. Make sure you didn't chop off the person's name of their high school diploma, or that the name is not obstructed in some way. Because even though that document may very well be there, if it's too dark for me to read, or too small for me to read, or too blurry for me to read, my flag's going to be upload a legible copy of this person's high school diploma. And for that month, you won't receive enrollment verification credit, because I simply cannot read what you uploaded. So for me, that one is very important. Yeah, just make sure we can read whatever it is that you provide. And then last but not least, if you have any questions, ask your Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Grant Manager. I happen to know Edwin's on the call. I believe Char's on the call. We are available to help, and we'd always prefer to get a question in advance, as opposed to you make a mistake that we're not able to verify your information and you're not able to receive the credit that you need. So that's that. As Norman always says, that's my preaching on compliance tips, and we'll move on to the grant renewal process. Okay, so as you all are aware, Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grantees can earn up to 2 renewals after their first grant year. To earn a renewal, grantees must meet specific performance thresholds. And those thresholds are for renewal organizations that meet or exceed compliance metrics of at least 76%, which is good progress or excellent progress, are invited to renew for a second or a third grant year. We also issue conditional renewals. Conditional renewals are for organizations that have met a compliance metric between 65% and 75%, which is high and adequate progress. Okay, so those are the 2 areas. And there will be 2 rounds of renewals. So we will pull data on Friday, September the 12th, and we will begin our first review to see who we will invite to renew automatically. And then we will take a look to see what our conditional renewals look like. There is a second opportunity for people who do not meet those thresholds. Say you're coming in really close. You may be at a 60% compliance rating in September. You have another chance. In October, we will pull data again. We will take another look again, and then we will issue a second round of renewal. So September and October are really, really critical for grantees who are interested in renewing. And I think last slide maybe, I said at the beginning, you need to mark your calendars with upcoming compliance data pool dates. So what we have for now, compliance data will be pulled, and you'll be really happy to know that it was not pulled on September the 5th. Data will be pulled this Friday, September the 12th. So this Friday, September the 12th, will be the next data pool. In October, the pool will be October the 10th. And these two these two dates will be used for renewal purposes. But then again, we will also do a compliance pool on November the 7th and one on December the 5th. So those are the remaining dates for compliance pools for 2025. All right, I know we are getting very, very short on time. Are there any questions?
As of right now, there are 2 questions in the chat. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, but you have post-program tracking. Think that might have been asking as a clarification on what you mean by post-program tracking, Monica?
Okay, post-program, well, Robert, actually tell me what you mean by post-program tracking, because I'm thinking two different things.
So no, I thought you were searching for a word, and it was post-program tracking. That's what I think that's what it was.
I think it was the performance, the fiscal report that you as grantees submit. That's what I was looking for. But post-active tracking, just in case anybody is interested, is one of the things that you should do as a part of your grant is to follow up with your grantees for a year after they've joined your program or a year after they've graduated from your program. So approximately 3 months after they have finished instruction, you should make it a point to reach out to them for reasons like, have you transitioned? Have you applied for additional DOL registered apprenticeship programs? Have you gotten a job? When you add that as a case note into IWRS, that person who was previously in complete and transition status will be moved to post-active tracking. So that is one of the things that is a part of what you do as a grantee. But thank you, Robert. Right then, that was not what I was looking for, and I still can't come up with what I was looking for. So, and then I see there's one more question, Olivia.
Yes. So from Bianca, they're asking to clarify if they don't have a transition document, such as a union application, for example, they are only in complete status
Oh,
or
okay.
not complete and in transition. Yes.
Okay, so to clarify, the person is in complete status, as in they have successfully finished completion. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Lord, that didn't make any sense. They have successfully completed instruction. Complete and in transition means that they have received at least one transition service. So even if they did not necessarily apply for a DOL registered apprenticeship program, did they get help with their resume? Did they do job shadowing? Did they some of our different transition services? Did they take part in mentoring with some of your former participants? So complete in transition simply means they received any transition service that we provide, and those of course are outlined in the grantee manual. So it's not just a transition document. Okay. And thank you, Shar. It was periodic performance report, so I appreciate it. I tried way too long to come up with that. Okay, sorry, Carlita. I know you're ready, or Olivia. I know you're ready to do the evaluation. So thank you, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Monica.
much. Thank you, Monica. We really do appreciate all of your help for today. So, as we are closing up today, we would appreciate to hear from you all. We appreciate your feedback as it will help us improve the quality of our trainings moving forward. And so, if you all have from our previous Mentimeter from the beginning, we had on the slides above, as well as we have the information in the chat, the Mentimeter code and web link. Please share your views on the training by rating the following statements from 1 lowest to 10 highest. To what extent did you meet expectations? How likely are you to attend a similar event? And how likely are you to recommend this training to others? Okay. Great feedback so far. I appreciate this honesty. Thank you all. All right. And so moving forward, the course was relevant to what I wanted to learn about this subject matter. From strongly disagree, somewhat, neither agree or disagree, somewhat agree, or strongly. All right, these are coming in. I see some strongly agree, somewhat agree. All right, so everything's coming in, somewhat disagree, strongly. Okay. I thank you all for this feedback. This is very helpful. And I plan to apply what I learned. Again, we have from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Okay, thank you all so much for your answers back on how you would apply what you learned. And for these, what improvement might you recommend? So this is open for what you guys believe anything can change or what we should do moving forward. And if you don't have any comment necessarily, you can put, as someone already did right now, just apply NA just to see our feedback. Okay. NA seems to be about right. Thank you. And what did you find effective? If we make changes, what would you recommend we keep? So this is also very open. Again, if you don't have necessarily a comment, you can put NA in there as well. But again, this is very important for us because we do want to hear from you all and see what we can do best for you. Live Q&A. Okay, thank you. Screenshots were helpful. All right. Okay. Thank you all for your participation. And thank you all so much for today. We really do appreciate you all coming and providing this feedback. Again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to Illinois Works and your grant managers as well, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.